You guys, I've done it. I have freaking done it. There has been this growing problem that I've been stumped on for the past several months, and not 30 minutes ago, I found the solution to my problem. In my writing, of course. Now, I'm coming at you fast with this, and I really need to organize my thoughts, so let's start with the beginning, okay? When I first started writing my book, Chapter 1 was supposed to be an introduction to the world, an introduction to some of the more important main characters, an introduction to the main character himself, the protagonist, and the introduction to the main conflict. But I wrote it in such a way that seemed very forced, and it seemed very contrived, I believe is the proper term. Contrived. So, the whole conflict, as I've said in previous videos, is between the dreadnoughts, who are kind of like warrior type characters, and the enforcers, who are like the cops in the fictional city of Purgatory, my book world. The first chapter, as I wrote it, has our main character, Jinx, the courier. He's a delivery boy, he's a messenger boy. He gets this package labeled for a dreadnought. It clearly says for dreadnought. And he's scared because he does not want to meet the dreadnought, but he has to do so because it's his job. And so he goes, he meets the dreadnought. The dreadnought cannot read the letter he's given because he's a big bear man. He's a giant bear-like creature, and he doesn't have thumbs to open the letter, so Jinx has to open the letter and read it to him. And the letter is ominous. It's supposed to be a letter from a friend telling the giant bear dreadnought that the enforcers are looking for him. It's a warning, watch out, man. They're coming for you. And it's supposed to be very ominous, and it's supposed to be very foreboding, and the dreadnought lets the main character live and just kind of tells him to go on his way. Then in the second chapter, our character meets another dreadnought who has his own issues with the enforcers. And that kind of stands alone as its own event until more chapters occur in which, the plot sort of thickens and we learn what the conflict between the dreadnoughts and the enforcers is. Okay, so that's how I originally envisioned this story. But as I was writing it, I added in details that made the original chapter less coherent. It made less sense. Such as the detail that because the dreadnoughts are so powerful, the council, who are the leadership of the city of Purgatory, they're kind of like the mayors, but it's a group of like 14 people who control the city, secretaries of state, and so on. They're the politicians. They understand that they can't just throw cops at the dreadnoughts. They can't throw their soldiers at the dreadnoughts because the dreadnoughts are the best of the best when it comes to fighting. They will kill them, and they will probably destroy everything in their path. So, as a solution, the council made it illegal for citizens of the city to do business with dreadnoughts. You're not allowed to hire any dreadnoughts. You're not allowed to accept money from them. You're not allowed to buy things from them. They do not exist in the economy of the city of Purgatory. Doing so gets the business owner or the individual in question arrested for their involvement with that dreadnought. So it's a way of isolating them and sort of like cutting them off from resources. And again, as the backstory, it's supposed to be something that's already established. So it doesn't make any sense that the dreadnought that we meet in the very first chapter, which I think will be the second chapter, if I divide it up, I don't know how long it's going to be. How then can they use like a public utility or a public business like the District Express courier system, the package boys, it's basically like UPS. How then are they going to mail stuff to each other? and clearly label that it's going from one dreadnought to another. That's like shipping a UPS package and labeling it for like a freaking Yakuza member, or like a Blood or a Crip, or any other gangster freaking organization. I don't know all of them. Sue me. My original fix to this was to take out the dreadnought part in the order form, in the documentation. Jinx still has to find Kobe. Kobe is the first dreadnought, the bear dreadnought. He still has to find him, but he doesn't know how dangerous Kobe is until he actually meets him. And I was going to drop in little hints here and there. The enforcers are looking for Kobe, but they don't really explain why. And Jinx starts asking other people where Kobe is, and they're like, you don't want to deal with him. Trust me, he's dangerous. And Jinx is like, oh, I don't know. I'm just doing my job. I need to find this guy. He meets Kobe, and Kobe is very scary and very powerful, and now he's regretting his decision. But I realize that this still doesn't make any sense. If City Council, which has its own, like, Homeland Security Division, its own, like, CIA, if you think about it, they're looking for dreadnoughts. That's their half of the story, is they are trying to monitor these gangsters' activities. I say gangsters in air quotes because they're not actually gangsters, but that's a different part of the story. It would only make sense that they have a list of known dreadnoughts, of members of this organization, just on file. And this is a world that has advanced computerization. So anytime a name pops up anywhere with any business, it should be flagged and should be, like, intercepted immediately. That doesn't happen in the story. It also doesn't make sense that the company itself, fully knowing that this is a package for a dreadnought, just allows the package to go out. That also doesn't make sense. And thirdly, it doesn't make sense for the dreadnought, the friend of Kobe the bear. Why would he use the package service to send his letter to his friend if it is highly likely the package will get confiscated and taken to the council? It doesn't make sense. The character who sends the letter initially is Raven the Angel. He is a black-winged angel. He is covered in scars. He's kind of like a dark angel type character. Even though he's not evil, that's just how I imagine him. He is a few hundred years old, and he is supposed to be that character who is always, like, in the background, who he kind of shows up here and there, who knows what's going on because he's paying attention. He has hundreds of years of experience. He should know better. Why is he making such a dumbass move? And I kept running into all these questions as I'm trying to rewrite the first chapter. And every time I add something in, I keep getting more and more questions than solutions, because none of it makes any sense. Until I had an epiphany. It was literally 5-10 minutes before recording this video. What if he doesn't send the letter at all? Novel idea, but allow me to explain. The very first writing of the chapter, Jinx is afraid of the dreadnought from the onset. It says dreadnought on his paperwork, and he does not want to find this guy, but he has to. And I do this to set up from the very beginning that dreadnoughts are supposed to be dangerous. It's very forced, and obviously it's not going to work given what I have set up. But that's supposed to be the starting conflict, Jinx has a dangerous job to do. I thought a lot about it, and I realized his job can still be dangerous from the start without actually involving the dreadnoughts, at least not initially. That's one of those turns in the story that kind of deepens the narrative. Instead, what if I just make it like one of those more obvious, one of those more mundane occupational hazards? He is basically a mailman. and he goes all around the city, which includes some of the more rundown, some of the more impoverished neighborhoods. What if the initial conflict is just he has to go to one of the crime ridden neighborhoods? He has to go to this place that's full of poverty, that's full of aggression, and full of crime. He obviously doesn't want to do it, but he's forced to because that's his job. He goes into this neighborhood, he starts doing his deliveries, and then he gets cornered because Jinx, I've said in previous videos, I have not said in this video, Jinx is a goblin. He is probably 2.5, 3 feet tall. He's small. And he rides a velocihopper, which is basically a velociraptor that has like toad body parts, toad legs. He has a tadpole's tail. He croaks, or she, because it's a female. But this creature is not that big either. It's probably, I imagine it's about as big as a Great Dane, if not maybe about as big as a pony. You know, it's larger than a dog, but it's not as big as a horse because Jinx is small. But he gets cornered by all these kind of colorful characters who try to rob him. But then a mysterious stranger kind of like swoops in and scares them off. He protects this little guy and says, you know, for helping you out, you have to do me a favor. You have to take this letter, which he pulls out of his cloak, or cloak? Yeah, it's cliche, but he is a fully shrouded character. He's got the hood, he's got the ominous voice. You have to take this letter to a friend of mine. Why does Jinx have to go to his friend, Kobe, instead of him going himself? Because the enforcers are running around, and he can't get past the enforcers to see his friend. He has to be really careful about doing all of that. But some guy just running around doing his job, like a mailman, should be able to get past no problem. And that can be the opening to the story. Jinx doesn't understand the threat that he is facing until it's too late. He was just doing his job, got caught up in a situation, ended up owing somebody a favor. That favor turns out to be far more than he bargained for. And now he's getting twisted up in this conflict between the most powerful members of city government and the most powerful sort of like underground elements of the city. And he's just in the middle, purely out of circumstance, purely out of coincidence. He didn't agree to help anybody. He just started helping someone, and that got him on the wrong side of the law, which means that he has to ask for help from the guys he was helping earlier, which means that they need to ask him for more things to do. And it's just so freaking delicious. I had no idea it was so simple trying to solve this problem. It's going to take a crunch ton of rewrites. I say a crunch ton because it's more than a crap ton, but not exactly a shit ton. So it's a crunch ton. A crunch ton of rewrites to make this work. But it's so obvious, and it's so simple. Because when your solution is simple, it does not require a whole bunch of convoluted nonsense to make it work. You're involved now, buddy. You're helping us because I helped you. We don't have to have any crazy plans that don't make sense, or any sort of like MacGuffins. The letter in the original chapter was a MacGuffin. It was the reason why Jinx had to find a dreadnought. It was part of his job. Now, he's just doing his job. He's at the wrong place at the wrong time. He butts heads with somebody, and boom, he gets roped into this nonsense. And it is freaking perfect. You have no idea how long this has been bothering me. And to just have the answer just appear, it blossomed like a flower in my mind. And now I'm just high on the pollen that is coming out of it. It's beautiful. The aroma of creativity. I can't express to you just how great this feels. But I really need to stop this ranting and this raving and get to work to make this work so that I can actually have like a first chapter to put out for beta readers. That's definitely going to be something I'll work on later. I'll tell you all about later. But for now, there's work to be done, you know?